Once a determination is made that a spouse is eligible for alimony, we then have to figure out what type of alimony they're going to get, how much, how often, how long. So there are four types of alimony in Tennessee. The first is rehabilitative alimony. That is sort of the traditional alimony. That is actually what the statute says is preferable. And it is designed to do just that, to rehabilitate a financially disadvantaged spouse to be able to get their income back up to a level where they can somewhat reasonably enjoy the standard of living that they had come to know during the marriage. Rehabilitative alimony is modifiable. That's one of the things that attorneys don't necessarily like about it, but if that, let's say a disadvantaged spouse wanted to go back to school and to earn an education to get out into the workforce, and a determination was made to give to provide 4 years of rehabilitative alimony, they could come back before that 4-year period was over and file a motion with the court and to say it's taking them a little bit longer to complete school than they thought, or they've got that degree but the job hasn't come, so they can go back to that well and try to modify that. Alternatively, the spouse who is paying that alimony could file a motion to modify that as well and say that their financial situation has changed and their ability to pay that alimony is not what it was when that divorce was finalized. So the modifiable nature of rehabilitative is why modern practice has moved a little bit somewhat away from that. The second type of alimony is alimony in futuro. Alimony in futuro is really intended for very long-term marriages, divorces in a very long-term marriage where for a good length of time, for many years, one spouse was much more financially disadvantaged than the other. It might be because they were a homemaker, they were staying home raising children is most common when we see alimony in futuro, and it might be that they were supporting the more financially advantaged spouse. They were allowing them to spend more time at work and to put more efforts and energy and time into their businesses and into their workplace because they were taking care of things at home. And so over a period of a 15, 20, 25 year marriage, that spouse may need alimony indefinitely. And in futuro, that in futuro alimony, which is typically paid monthly, will continue indefinitely until either they remarry or till either one of the parties dies. So alimony in futuro is typically reserved just for those very long-term marriages where there's just no hope of that financially disadvantaged spouse to realistically rehabilitate their income up to where they could get anywhere near enjoying the same standard of life that they enjoyed during that marriage. The third type of alimony is transitional alimony, and that is what we really see most common, candidly, and that is to help the financially disadvantaged spouse to transition to a post-divorce life and to give them time to get their income back up to something that can allow them to appreciate a similar standard of living. But it is not like rehabilitative in the sense that it is non-modifiable. Once a court order for transitional alimony is put down, either by agreement or following a divorce trial, that transitional alimony cannot be changed. And so typically we see that for a shorter period of time than we would see with rehabilitative, and certainly it would not be something that's indefinite with an in futuro. And so it could be a matter of 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Typically you would not see transitional alimony for a very long period of time, but it is a fixed amount, typically monthly. It can be sliced up differently, but the point is that it's a shorter term and it's non-modifiable, and it is an amount that is agreed upon, that both parties agree, or that the court decides is what should be sufficient to allow that financially disadvantaged spouse to get their income back up to where they can enjoy a similar standard of living. The fourth and final type of alimony in Tennessee is alimony in solido, sort of Latin for solid. So a lump sum alimony is another way that we refer to in solido alimony. So in solido alimony can be used where there's a financially disadvantaged spouse and they might need a lump sum amount of alimony to be able to sort of get started on that next chapter post-divorce and to be able to get closer to that standard of living. But also alimony in solido can be used sometimes to help true up an otherwise inequitable division of the marital estate. It's really not, under the law, not supposed to be related to the division of assets, but an equitable division of assets in a divorce might still render a financially disadvantaged spouse not able to really enjoy that standard of life post-divorce. And so alimony in solito can be used to sort of compensate for that otherwise inequitable result that might occur. So those are the 4 types of alimony in Tennessee, and what is most appropriate would really just depend on the length of the marriage, how financially disadvantaged one spouse is over the other, and what the other spouse's ability to pay that alimony is. And so there are a lot of factors that go into making that determination. But in general, you're going to see transitional alimony used more often than not.